guys, it's Miss Sneeze. I want to start off saying about how proud I am of you guys with your figurative language assignment so far for this week. You guys have done awesome. Everybody, for the most part, has been asking a lot of questions. You've been turning your work in. Your questions have been correct. You've just been on top of everything. And I'm so proud of you guys because I know how difficult this can be with everything that's going on, and you guys are being troopers. We are going to stick with figurative language for this week. A little quick review is I'm going to use our same cards as alliteration. Just real fast. Alliteration is the repetition of the first letter or sound of each word in a sentence, phrase, or a poem. And then we had hyperbole. And hyperbole is an exaggeration. So that's anything like, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse, or I know you've waited a million light years to learn about hyperboles. These are just big exaggerations that they're just not true. You couldn't really wait, a million light years. And then we have automatopoeia. And automatopoeia is a word that originates from a sound. So, neigh for a horse, or splash because you hit water, or boom because something just blew up, a bomb went off. Those are all automatopoeias, or words that make sound. And then we had personification. Personification is the act of giving human traits, qualities, or actions to non-living objects. So here it said the stars are smiling and winking at us. If you guys remember too, in the last video, I said that a really easy way to remember personification is the keyword person that is in it. So if you ever have trouble trying to remember these, remember the word person. And then when you think of person, you can think, okay, well, I'm giving those human traits to inanimate objects and things. And then lastly, our last two were similes and metaphors. So a metaphor is a figure of speech that says one thing is the same as something else. And then a simile is using like or as to compare two things. So remember, a metaphor is not using like or as, and a simile is using like or as to compare two things. I just wanted to do this little quick review for you guys because we are still staying on figurative language. So I want to keep that really fresh in your guys' mind. So what we're going to be doing for this week is we're going to be looking at figurative language inside of poetry. And poetry is something that allows you guys to be super creative. You can express yourself in poetry in a lot of different ways. Poetry is just a really good form of expressing how you feel. And a lot of poets, they use figurative language in their poems. So one that you guys will hear a lot of is Edgar Allan Poe. So I wanted to show you guys a little, kind of like a little biography of his life, so you guys can kind of see who Edgar Allan Poe was and why his writings are the way that they are in his poems. Because then you can kind of see, okay, well, here's how his life was, and this is why his poems are the way that they are. So maybe he's trying to express something about his life. Maybe that's why his poems are so dark. You never know. But I want to show you guys that's where the creativity comes into in your poems that you guys can do. They're just so you can express creativity in so many different ways. So we're going to go and we're going to watch this short little video. Like I said, it's just a biography of Edgar Allan Poe.
Special week of horror. Today, we're going to be talking about Edgar Allan Poe, a writer, poet, critic, and editor from the US, known for his horror short stories and his gothic novels. With a gloomy and very innovative style at the time, he marked the first steps of today's horror and detective novels. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more Halloween videos. He was born on January 19th, 1809 in Boston, Massachusetts. When Edgar was only 2 years old, his dad abandoned his family. A bit later, his mom died, leaving Poe with his brother and sister orphan. The three of them were separated, and Poe was adopted by the Allan family. John Allan was a successful tradesman, so Edgar didn't have any money issues while he was a kid, and he went to good schools. His stepmother, who couldn't have kids, always loved him and pampered him. However, the relationship with his stepfather was never really good. Since he was a kid, Edgar always enjoyed spending time reading English magazines he found in his dad's warehouse. And when he was only 14, he was already writing his own poems. Back then, Poe was a good kid, but not very sociable. At that time already, his macabre way of writing was already appearing. Poe enrolled at the University of Virginia when he was 17, and problems started then. His stepfather limited his money. Edgar was a big fan of betting and alcohol. He went into debt and had to leave college. Without money or a job, he decided to enlist in 1827 in the U.S. Army. That same year, he published his first book, Tamerlane and Other Poems, credited only to a Bostonian, since his stepfather didn't want him to write and Poe didn't want to be discovered. This short collection of poems still dealt with all the typical themes in that period of time, and it was full of verses Edgar had written when he was a kid. Edgar's stepmom fell ill, but by the time he was able to go back home, Mrs. Allan was already dead. It was very painful for the poet. He moved with his grandma and his aunt. It was then that he published his second book, Allan, which contained the longest poem he ever wrote. According to Poe himself, he wrote it when he was 15. This collection of poems called the critics' attention, but not in a good way. The poems were too complicated. John Allan decided to make up with his son and got him a place to continue his studies in the military academy at West Point in 1830. The writer stood out in the classes he took, but his stepfather married again without telling him, and Edgar started fighting him constantly, until John simply cut off all contact with him. It was then that the poet was expelled from West Point due to his bad behavior. Poe didn't have any friends, didn't have a job, and was facing serious financial problems. He swallowed his pride and sent a letter begging his father for help, but he never got any. In 1834, Edgar's stepfather died and didn't include him in his will. The writer kept fighting to survive, and in 1835 he got a job as an editor for the art and literature magazine Southern Literary Messenger in Richmond. There, Poe built a reputation as a fierce critic, writing cruel comments about his contemporaries. His heartless critics earned him the reputation of being a tomahawk man. When he was 27, the poet married his cousin Virginia, who was only 13 years old. At some point during 1840, Edgar joined George R. Graham as the Graham's magazine editor. During the years Poe worked for the magazine, he published his first detective novel, The Murders in the Rue Morgue. This has been recognized as the first modern detective story, with a macabre tone in both the crimes in the story and the characters themselves. In 1845, Edgar published his first great horror story, The Raven. The poem is considered to be one of the most famous in U.S. literature and one of the best and most horrifying in his career. In 1847, when he was only 24 years old, same age of her biological mom and his older brother when they died, his wife, Virginia, died of tuberculosis. Poe was devastated with pain after her death, and he was never in good health again. Allan Poe spent his last days in Baltimore. He was found in the streets raving and was taken to a hospital. During those days, he was never clear-headed enough to explain what had happened to him. In the end, he died on a Sunday, October 7th, 1849. Since then, there has been a great mysticism around his death. In the beginning, people thought it had been caused by a brain congestion or his alcoholism. But no cause is actually accurate, since his death certificate never appeared. His death still remains a great mystery. Edgar Allan Poe is considered as one of the best writers of short horror stories. Master of mystery and terror, he's still nowadays such a reference.
Okay, guys. So that was the short little video that I wanted to show you guys. So now we're going to look at one of Edgar's poems that he's wrote. This is called The Bells. And I will post this onto, it will look like this, and I will post this onto Google Classroom for you guys. So I'm going to read the poem, and then I am going to do a couple questions with you guys, and then I want you guys to finish it on your own. And then, like the assignments that we've been doing for this week, you guys can either take a picture of this and you can email it to me, or I will have a place open on Google Classroom for you guys if you want to type your answers into a Google document and submit them that way if you don't have a printer and you don't want to handwrite these. So it's whatever you guys want to do and whatever's the easiest. I'm totally fine with any of that, whatever makes it easier for you guys. So I'm going to take my camera real fast and I'm going to pull it down here. I know you guys probably will not be able to see the words that easily because they are very, very small. Maybe if I can hold it that way, you guys may can see a little better. But The Bells by Edgar Allan Poe. It says, I hear the sledges with the bells, silver bells. What a world of merriment their melody foretells. How the tinkle, tinkle, tinkle in the icy air of the night, while the stars that oversparkle all the heavens seem to twinkle with their crystalline delight, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme, to the tribulations that so musically wails, from bells, 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 from the jingling and the twinkling of the bells. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells. What a world of happiness their harmony foretells. Through the balmy air of the night, how they ring out their delight, from the molten golden notes, and all in tune. What a liquid ditty floats to the turtle's doves that listen while she glows. On the moon, oh, from out the sounding sails, what a gush of volumnously wails, how it swells, how it dwells on the future, how it tells of the rapture that impels to the swinging and the ringing of the bells, 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 of the bells, 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 to the rhyming and the chiming of the bells. So, if we go up here to number 1, it says write 2 examples of alliteration. I'm only going to do 1 because I want you guys to do the rest. Because you have already learned figurative language, I'm not going to do all of this one like I did on the other one because I want you guys to have this practice. So it says, what is 2 examples of alliteration? And so if we think back to our alliteration definition, alliteration is that repeating sound. So we're going to look in our poem here, and we're going to try to find a repeating sound. Now, one that comes to my attention is runic rhymes. So to make this stick out a little bit, I'm going to highlight it, just like that. And then over here, when it says write 2 examples, I'm just going to write runic rhyme. Because if you sit there and you think about that, what letter or sound is repeating there? It's the R, right? The R. So that would be an example of alliteration. So there's 1. Now I want you guys to give me 1. Okay, so now let's go down to number 2. And it says write 2 examples of personification. So again, if we think back to our definition of personification, it is giving human-like qualities to non-human things or objects, right? So I'm only going to do 1. So if I look here and I search all the way down through here, one that pops out to me is the turtle dove that listens while she gloats. Okay, so a turtle dove listens while she gloats. can a turtle dove really listen to you, like when you're talking, um, and comprehend what you're saying? No. So this is why this one would be personification. So again, I just highlighted it and then I put it over here. And now for our last one, it says write 2 examples. So again, you guys are going to do one and I'm going to do one of automatopoeia. So automatopoeia is sound words, right? So I'm going to get my highlighter and I'm going to go through here and I'm going to try to find one. So one that I heard earlier was Twinkle, 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 right up here at the top. Right up here. So I'm going to take and I'm going to write Twinkle. Tinkle. And that is going to be my example of automatopoeia, that sound word. Okay, so now you guys are going to do the rest of these on your own. Like I said, let me bring you guys back up here. So, after you get these done, you were going, like I said, you were either going to post it on the spot on Google Classroom if you have your printer, and you can print these out, or you can handwrite it, and you can send it to me by email. It's whatever you guys want to do. Just do like you've been doing this week. You guys have been doing awesome. Super proud of you. And if you don't have highlighters, guys, if you're choosing to do this hand and not in a Google document, and if you don't have a highlighter, that's completely fine, guys. Just underline it. Use a pencil and just underline it. All of that is completely fine. So this will be due Monday. So this is your all's Monday assignment, okay? So if you have any questions at all, guys, please do not hesitate to message me. You guys have my number. You can call, you can email, whatever. I'm always here for you guys, and you guys should know that. So if you have any questions at all, please, guys, get a hold of me, okay? All right. Have a good day, you guys. I miss you all. Stay safe and stay healthy. Bye.